Hello, everybody, and welcome into another playoff preview show here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and we are into the Western Conference Final. Only two series remain before we get to our Stanley Cup Final. Got Dallas Stars, Edmonton Oilers, rematch from last year. We'll see who moves on to the final this time. Will it be the Oilers or will it be the Stars? Marc, we got Marc Sautter here for the Stars, Brian Swane returning for the Oilers. Marc, how's it going?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me back once again. I guess you have no choice because Dallas just keeps winning. Really good. Not quite 7-game series all the way, but lengthy series all the way. And I have no doubt this one will be just the same. But it's been a great playoffs for all sides, especially for the Dallas Stars. So looking forward to keep the party rolling.
Sure. And Brian returning for the Oilers in the Western Conference Final. It's becoming a little bit of a regularity here. How's it going for you?
Yeah, you know what? People here in this city, I think, are starting to get spoiled. 3 years, 3 of the last 4 years now, headed into the West Final, and it really struck me watching the Leafs game last night too. Just how difficult you can see how difficult or how much it means just to get to the conference final.
Yes.
So, yeah, we're having it. We're pretty lucky how it's been here right now, but the ultimate prize still eludes the Oilers to this point. So,
yeah, and the Dallas Stars stand in their way. They're a really tough team. Had a bit of a thing with the Jets. It went to 6 games, and it was a bit of back and forth a bit, but ended up getting through that. So let's start with the Stars and their journey to the Western Conference Final. They went through and got through the Jets, got through the Avalanche. What has their journey been like from this last series against the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, to me, it felt like, and this might just be from a Dallas Stars perspective, I'm sure Winnipeg Jets fans had this kind of fear all along. It felt like the Jets had more demons to slay than the Dallas Stars did. So it kind of felt like no matter how like the ups and the downs, it just felt like to me that the Dallas Stars were going to win that first game. Of course, last time I saw you, Matt, was right on the heels of Rantanen's heroic Game 7. And of course, Game 1, the game was a bit shaky. Both teams getting their licks in, and Rantanen just goes and scores a hat trick and says, okay, we're winning this game. And that game was in Winnipeg, and that was the difference. Because from then on out, teams just could not win on the road for whatever reason. It was the home series the rest of the way. And so that first win was super key for Dallas, was to take one like on the road and then go from there. And then Winnipeg shuts them out twice on the road, and at home they just take care of business. For me, and listen, Winnipeg, very good team, obviously President's Trophy winners. We all know about Game 6 and like the Mark Scheifele tragedy and the whole deal. To me, for Dallas, it was their home play, which I just alluded to, special teams, and Jake Ottinger. I think Jake has been a very undercovered story so far. I think you're talking about Bobrovsky. Obviously, you're talking about, on the negative side, you're talking about Hellebuck. And with Oilers, you guys have who knows what's going on. Skinner sucks. Skinner's good. Oh, no, Pickard. Oh, wait, Pickard. So there's just so many goalie stories going around. And Jake has just very steadily been one of the best goaltenders the whole playoffs. And has just been doing his thing. So to me, special teams goaltending, huge, and on home ice, they've just been able to do their thing. So that for me has been the tale, not only of the second round, but of the whole playoffs to this point.
Sure. And Brian, we already mentioned the goaltending attack there. The Oilers, the Golden Knights, they did a bit easy. I don't know if it was easy going through them, but like you said, with Stuart Skinner he had 2 shutouts, and like all of a sudden he's bad. Like saying all of a sudden he's amazing. It's kind of an interesting thing now. He's the starter again. What do you think about the Oilers' journey in that second round there?
Yeah, do you remember my bold prediction was for the last series that I said there was the 2 Oilers goalies were going to win at least one game in the series? It didn't quite. It didn't follow the script that I thought it would, but that's exactly what happened. It's been crazy, and yeah, I mean Skinner's, he's pitched back-to-back shutouts here. He's currently on, I think, a streak of 128 minutes without giving up a goal, one of the longest in franchise history. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, by game 2, everything could be back to the other way around again. And meanwhile, Pickard, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but I mean Pickard is set to. We'll see, but it sounds like he'll be good to return sort of middle of the series, maybe game 3, game 4. So we'll see. But yeah, it's been an absolutely wild journey to get to this point. But the Oilers, they're cooking right now. They've won 8 out of 9. Really since fell behind LA down 2-0, and we're staring down 3-0 series deficit in the third period of game 3. And pulled off the great comeback, and then just since then they've been kind of a juggernaut. But yeah, that they might have won the series in 5 games against the Golden Knights, but the goal, that could have gone further. So they got themselves a bit of a break, which is never a bad thing in the playoffs. There's always the argument of rest versus rust, but there's. Most everybody's banged up at this time of year, so I think anytime you can get a week off is probably a good thing. And it's what's it going to end up being for Dallas anyway? They're going to have about 4 days off themselves.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting thing to watch. If the bit of a layoff affects either team going into game 1, but no, I mean, yeah, the Oilers are that. It's funny because you're throughout the playoffs you're trying to come up with something new to write every day, and it's just it hasn't been hard at all with this team because there's always some crazy juicy subplot going. So
for sure, and the thing is too, what I've noticed is that it's not the McDavid-Draisaitl show that's been getting them here, which it was last year and the previous year. It's a lot of it's depth. I mean, a lot of the the smaller scorers are doing it, which is been a difference so far. So we'll see if that continues in this one. I mean, you're going to need Draisaitl and McDavid to kind of catch fire at some point, I would think, if they want to win the cup. But we'll see how it goes. All right. Well, on that note, let's talk about some storylines. Marc, it's been the Rantanen show for the most part in Dallas. Talking about stars going, he's the star going. Yeah. They're going to need some of their other stars to get going. I know Jason Robertson hasn't scored. Your guy Wyatt Johnston hasn't really been a factor. I think that's probably. I'll start with that. That's probably a big storyline going into this one.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wrote about that about halfway through the Jets series. Is that yes? And I mean, I've had this conversation. I'm sure you guys have throughout the years. To me, Nathan McKinnon comes to mind, right? Where for Colorado, he produces on 44% of all goals. He has a point, and it's yeah, he's amazing, but how good long term, right? And that's what we've been seeing with Rantanen. There was one point where he scored or had a point in 15 straight goals or something like that. And it's that's just not sustainable. The good news is for Dallas, like you said, and I do think this is good news, is Jason Robertson was hurt and he is now finally beginning to get up to pace. I'm so sorry, you guys. Good night, buddy. Good night, buddy. Go see mama, okay? All right, love you, buddy. Sorry, guys. This is just what it is right now in my house. Thank you. Sorry about that, boys. So Jason Robertson finally back to pace. And I mean, what I saw, especially the last game, was Miro Heiskanen is back. I think the first game You could tell he was kind of slow. I think he only played like 13, 14 minutes, not too much power play time. In game 6, you saw him jumping in. Like I just felt like every time I'm looking at my phone and then look up and Miro's like at the crease, like just there. So that's really good for the offense. But you're absolutely right. Johnston, he began producing as the Colorado round went on, but in the Winnipeg round kind of got quiet. They need their big guys. The one guy, Matt, that I told you asked me in the last series, the X Factor. I said Matt Duchene. And here we are, and Matt Duchene still has played well. He's winning faceoffs. His name is called. It's not like he's not out there, but still nothing. No goals from Matt Duchene, which would concern me. But Mason Marchment's been chipping in. Thomas Harley from the back end, another overtime game-winning goal from him. So they are slowly getting pieces chipping in. And what's funny is, like, the one game, I'm completely drawing a blank here, but I think it was game 4 where they needed someone not named Mikko. So then Granlund went out and got a hat trick. Yeah. Same line, also from – so it's like, okay, like – that's good, but can we just have not just one guy score all the goals? Yeah. So I'm right there with you, but I do think that the depth is beginning to click kind of at the right time. And I do think Miro being back, like, he was phenomenal during game 6. I can't state that enough. And when he's driving the play, it just changes the way that this offense moves. So that's going to be something to watch out going forward. Once again, thank you all your viewers for wishing my son a good night. I appreciate that. Sorry.
No problem. All right. Well, Brian, I mean, the Oilers, their depth has, like I mentioned, their depth kind of stepping up at different times. Add on to the coaching being a big thing too. It seems like Knobloch's been kind of touching on different things where it's like, seems to work. Bringing Kasperi Kapanen in and Troy Stetcher, stroke of brilliance, it seemed, in game 5 there with Kapanen scoring the overtime winner. What storylines are you following going into this one?
I think it's, as you talked about there a couple minutes ago, and then similar to what Marc's been mentioning is with the Stars is it's the depth scoring and the, the big guns not necessarily delivering. And I think this has been the story of the playoffs for the Oilers, is the fact that they are this far. They have gotten this far with getting so little out of Draisaitl and McDavid. And it's funny, when I say so little, it's like they're still averaging a point a game over the last series. But I mean, that's just not like it's the and I wrote about this a few days ago. Between their top 3 scorers, Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, their production is all down from the regular season. And combined, they only have 6 goals in Edmonton's 8 wins. McDavid and Draisaitl have just 4 goals in Edmonton's 8 wins. Like, if this was 3 or 4 years ago, they would. Well, I wouldn't be on this podcast right now because they would be eliminated if that was the level of their production they were getting from Draisaitl and McDavid. Like, it's unbelievable the level of depth scoring this team has got through the first 2 rounds that has propelled them into this point. And I can't remember which one of you said it here. I think it was you, Matthew, but that's not sustainable. Like, at some point, and I think that point is now in the conference finals, the big guns have to step up if they're going to get through to the round. Like, it's incredible that the depth scoring has carried them this far. Now these guys need to take over. And I think that's fascinating to watch on both sides here for this series, both the Stars and the Oilers, where both of them have had players that are expected to produce more that maybe haven't quite at the level they are. And what a testament, though, to both teams that they are at this point from the depth scoring they're getting. So that, to me, is that it's really a fascinating story, because the narrative around the Oilers for so long has been they go as Draisaitl and McDavid go. Like, there's just nobody else on this team. And that hasn't been the case this year. But like I say, they're going to have to step up, and I think that starts now.
For sure. And I mean, there's also interesting things where you got a couple players that have been healthy scratch, Victor Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner being guys.
The two biggest free agent signings last summer.
They're not even playing.
Yeah.
All right. You got a waiver pickup, I believe. Kasperi Kapanen was waiver pickup. And then Troy Stetcher, usually a guy that's not playing. I love Stetcher, by the way. He's in Vancouver for a while. I really like him. So I'm glad he's in the lineup. But yeah, it's interesting to see some of the guys that are not even playing.
I mean, Klingberg's played some really big minutes, especially since he came back, I want to say game 2 or 3 against LA. He did not do much in the regular season. That's another guy that's pretty much picked off the scrap heap, right? That was his reclamation project. I don't know if anybody in the league thought he had much left. The Oilers needed some help on the back end. Gave him a shot. Wasn't much to lose with the contract they gave him, and now he's kind of coming to form here too in the playoffs too. So it's like, it's funny how these things work out, eh?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, speaking of players, I start with you, Mark. I mean, the Stars, we've mentioned a few of the guys already, but anyone else you're kind of really watching in this series to maybe step up, or guys we haven't really talked about in the playoffs so far, or just, anyone should be watching here?
Well, first of all, just very quickly from the human side, Jeff Skinner, poor guy, been in the league for so long, never made the playoffs, and he's scratched. And I'm not laughing out of hilarity. I genuinely feel bad for the dude, man. Such a great career, and he's on up in the press box. Sucks for him, but so for me, once again, we already talked about it. Last pod that we did, Matt, the last show we did, we talked about Mikko a million times. I feel like Miro is probably going to be that guy now. He just looked so good in that game 6 that I'm really curious to watch. On the other side of that, though, and we talked about this the last time, the Dallas Stars power play for the first 2-3 months of the season was abysmal. Bottom 5, the whole stretch was awful. And Miro runs that first power play unit. When he got hurt and Thomas Harley took over, they catapulted to top 5 from January 1st onward. And their power play has been terrific in this postseason. I had it up, just pulling it back up again really quickly. Power play percentage, 3rd in the league during the playoffs, 30.8. And a lot of that was with Thomas Harley. So I'm really curious to see what they do. Do they keep Harley number 1? The last game, they kind of had them both trading off number 1. So that's going to be something for me really fascinating to watch. Miro is back. He looks great. But the first half of the season, the power play wasn't that good with him there, quite frankly. So what will they do in the playoffs now that he has returned to as close to full form as we will probably see? Another one for me, once again, we're talking negatively, but Matthew Zator, man, at some point, I know they have Jason Robertson. He will get going. I think he didn't play for the whole playoffs, and to get tossed in there in the middle of the second round, like the beginning of the second round, that's really tough. So I'm not too worried about Jason Robertson. I think Wyatt Johnston, he's going to have his moments for sure. And we all know Mikko Rantanen is going to deliver. Granlund has looked really good. I'm not worried about those guys. They will get their cookies at some point. To me, Matt Duchene just seems completely snake bitten, man. This guy just cannot buy a goal to save his life. And year after year, big game-winning goals, big game-tying goals, and we just haven't seen that from him. This series is the margins are going to be so thin. I think thinner than last year. I think that both the Oilers and Dallas are better this year than they were last year. So like these guys like Matt Duchene, they got to come through. So that's going to be curious. And another guy that I've already mentioned, but I'll just say it again, Jake Ottinger, man. I really do. Any Dallas Stars podcast you listen to, anything that you read, this is the hero right now. You can talk about Mikko, rightfully so. You can talk about Thomas Harley, rightfully so. You can talk about Pete DeBoer and the great job he's done, rightfully so. But they're not here without Jake. That's just bottom line, especially versus Colorado. But even game 6, twice, Kyle Connor, one of the best goal scorers in the league, twice on a breakaway. And he's just been absolutely phenomenal. And I know Connor Hellebuck has his demons or whatever. Still, in my opinion, the best goalie personally. And Jake was better than him. And I know he has his playoff demons, but that's not nothing. So those are, I basically just named the whole roster. So the whole roster, Matt. But that's what I'll be keeping my eye on.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that I think need to really step up to. I mean, like Duchesne is probably the biggest one. And Ottinger's been brilliant throughout the playoffs so far. And if I want to say that they have the edge in goaltending, but Skinner plays this the way he's played the last couple games, then might be even. So I don't know. So Brian, what about you for, guys to watch that? I mean, we've mentioned a few already, but probably
I'm going to say they have the edge in goaltending. Though I think Dallas has the edge in goaltending here. The first guy I think to watch for the Oilers is Stuart Skinner, because it's what Skinner's going to show up. Yeah. And as I was saying, like with Pickard's likely out, well, we know he's out for at least the first couple games of the series. Like there's no one coming, right? Like it's up to Skinner now to, if no one's coming off the bench to save the day. So he's shown he can do it before. He was tremendous in the playoffs last year. He had a bit of a rut in the Vancouver series, then was just fantastic all the way to Game 7 in the final. So this could just be it could be starting again this year. He could be about to go on a great run, so it's possible. But he was very up and down this season, so you never know what you're going to get. So Skinner to me is really the X factor, because I think the others have their defensive play has certainly improved substantially as the playoffs have gone on, and I think that was a big part of the series against. Winning the series against Vegas, but it was also that they were getting the saves from their goalies, their goalie in Skinner. So to me, he's really the X factor. And on another fascinating player to watch, I think, in this series will be Leon Draisaitl, because he did not contribute much offensively against Vegas. It was to the point where there has been some speculation around here that he might actually be playing hurt. That that's how. He looked kind of frustrated. He did not look like himself. It sounds like he's not hurt, though. It just had a rough few games there. But I think, so not only, as I mentioned before, you're looking for him to step up and contribute more offensively than he has, but I think he could be a factor defensively as well if he's matched up against Rantanen. Draisaitl is actually low-key, can be a very good defensive forward. And that's a matchup that we might want to keep an eye on here. So to me, Draisaitl, and it's more than just the offense he can bring. It's what he could potentially do on the other side of the coin as well.
Sure. And that's, he can match with size-wise. That's the big thing with him. Rantanen just hasn't been able to be slowed down yet in the playoffs. So we'll see if the Oilers can do it. And, McDavid was really angry with everyone kind of saying that the Oilers are bad defensively. I kind of was that one interview, I think it was after Game 6, and they won after Game 5, after they won the series. He was a little angry. I don't know. But the Oilers have been way better defensively. They're not just all offense.
They gave up 24 goals in 6 games against LA. It's like the most goals they've ever given up in a series since 1988 or something like that. So
maybe that's where it came from.
So you know what? He can get mad, but they were not good defensively in round 1, and the only reason they got out of round 1 is that was a whoever scores last wins series. Yeah. And this last series was much more like you tend to see in quote unquote playoff hockey, right? So when your goalie's getting back-to-back shutouts, you're usually going to win.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, speaking of winning, so the Stars, they will win the series if. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, honestly, Matt, I think I said the same thing last time. I maybe not, but I'm pretty sure that I did. I think number one, Jake has to keep doing what he's doing. That's number one for me. Number two, and again, talked about this a lot last time, but special teams, man. Like Dallas Stars special teams during the postseason have been phenomenal. Top 3 in both categories. And the penalty kill is not a surprise. The penalty kill was phenomenal all year long. But the power play has just been tremendous. They're basically scoring minimum 1 power play goal per game, basically. And as I said before, I think the margins in this series, even more so than last series, are going to be so thin that I just think special teams are going to be incredibly huge, which they always are. I know that's like, oh, like, thank you. But the one thing is, and I mean, Pete DeBoer said it after game 6, their 5-on-5 play has been good. It hasn't been great, not awful. It's been okay. It's the power play and the penalty kill that have really carried them. And he said that special teams and Jake, those are the 2 reasons why we're here. And against the Oilers, especially, I know that McDavid, Draisaitl have been quiet, but that Oilers team, when all of those guys, they're so fast. Like the whole team, once they get like rolling, it's just a train moving downhill. And the Dallas Stars don't play that way. That's why Colorado gave them so much trouble, is they don't play that way. They like to be slow, methodical, where the Oilers just put the pedal to the metal, and that's not how Dallas plays. So I think 5-on-5 for Dallas is going to be really difficult, and I think that just puts even a bigger spotlight on the special teams, and of course Jake. And what we said before about, Duchesne and the goal scoring, all of that just kind of fits into kind of the same thing. And just one quick thing with the goaltending thing. The Kings had the better goaltending. Vegas had the better goaltending, and none of it mattered. So to say like Jake has to be the best goaltender, I have no doubt that he will be, but that it might not matter, but he still has to keep doing what he's been doing.
Yeah, well, it's true. The last 2 series, the Oilers have had the quote, the worst goaltending, but still to get through. All right, Brian, what about you for the Oilers? I mean, the previous series preview I did with the Hurricanes and Panthers said they're same systems. This is totally different. Both teams play different systems. So how are the Oilers going to win this one?
I actually want to piggyback on Mark's point there. I think like how significant special teams is going to be in this series, because as it's very interesting, because Dallas has been dynamite on the power play and the Oilers have been dreadful on the penalty kill. They were good the last couple games, obviously, with getting a shutout, but that's as much to do with the fact that they were able to stay out of the box. And I think they only had 3 power plays. Vegas only had 3 power plays over those 2 games.
Right.
The Oilers have just struggled with the penalty kill in the playoffs. And I think statistically, I'm not sure, but just anecdotally watching the playoffs this year, it seems that there are fewer and fewer power play opportunities, which just magnifies the importance of each single one, right? So if that one power play opportunity, game 6, Dallas, Winnipeg, right? I mean, that was the only power play in the game, right? So
huge.
Yeah. So I mean, that could do it. So I mean, special teams could play a massive role in this series. So I just wanted to sort of piggyback on that, and I think that was a great point, Mark. As far as the Oilers winning the series, I'm gonna say I mean, as I talked about, the big guns have to step up. So if Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, if they can get, between, let's say, 9 to 10 goals between the 3 of them, I think that's it gives the Oilers a great chance of winning the series and continue to get the depth scoring they've got. And it's probably going to come down to what they get out of the goalies. and whether that's just Skinner or Skinner and Pickard, some combination thereof. It's going to be fascinating to watch. Like I say, Skinner has got the net for at least the first couple games. Can he continue to do what he did against Vegas? Because Skinner was really, I thought he was very, very good in the series against Dallas last year. So I know it's not the same Dallas team, and but I'm not sure. Having said that, I'm not sure if it's going to come down to a goalie duel, right? Because as Mark, you were saying, it might not matter.
Yeah.
But I still think Skinner and or Pickard, they're going to have a lot to say one way or another about who wins this series.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's going to be 1-0, 1-1. It's not going to be really low scoring. I'm thinking it's probably going to be like 3-2. They're going to be 1-goal games, I think. I don't think there's many blowouts in this one. Unless they say Skinner all of a sudden reverts back to his previous form, which I'm sure Oilers fans don't want to hear. But we'll see how that all goes. All right. Well, Brian, you mentioned an X factor already in Stuart Skinner. That's a big one, or the goaltending in general. Do you have any other X factors for the Oilers in this one?
You mentioned Kapanen. I think he's just been incredible. He was a healthy scratch right up until game 4, and he's just looked nothing like the player that we saw during the regular season. He's made what he's brought to the Oilers lineup in those 2 games, just in terms of his physicality. He was getting pucks on net. The guy's got 8 shots in the 2 games. I mean, just like an entirely different player, and he was rewarded with getting the series clinching goal. So that's one guy. I think I'm going to throw Matthias Ekholm out there as well. It looks like he was skating in practice today. They're saying that he won't be back for at least the first couple games, but he's their best defenseman. Flat out, he's their best defenseman, at least all around. Evan Bouchard is obviously an incredibly gifted offensive defenseman, but he's got his adventures on the other end of the ice. Jeff Ekholm is far and away their best player on the blue line. So him coming into the lineup, whenever that may be, if it's game 3, if it's game 4, and if he can kind of pick up where he left off, because he has been out for a while. So, there could be some rust there, but that could be a massive difference for the Oilers if he returns, when he returns.
Well, it's just like Heiskanen, right? I mean, he's not as dynamic offensively, obviously, but all around. I mean, great defenseman and he makes Bouchard better too. I mean, it seems like he settles him down. So that's an extra benefit of him being back as well. Mark, what about you for X factors for the Stars?
Yeah, I'm gonna double down on the whole Matt Duchene thing. I am also gonna add in, like we already kind of talked about, man. We kind of hit on it. Like, I really do think Jason Robertson needs to show up here. Like, to me, like, as the playoffs go on, the best players tend to, not every time, but generally speaking, tend to cancel each other out, right? That's why I was like the only one not freaking out about Austin Matthews not scoring, because anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But that tends to happen, right? And so now the beautiful thing about Jason Robertson now, and now also Matt Duchene and Wyatt Johnston, is Pete DeBoer has his Finnish mafia line, right? You got Hintz, you got Granlund, you have Rantanen on the number 1 line. He rolls all 4, so 1 becomes 2, becomes 3. It's all kind of mumbo jumbo, but you have Hintz, Granlund, Rantanen on the top line. Sometimes on the 3rd line, you have Johnston and Robertson on a 3rd line. So home games is going to be super, super curious how he does that. So my point is, those big boys, Rantanen and Granlund and Hintz, they're going to be getting the McDavid matchup quite a bit. My assumption would be. So if that's happening, you got now that being said, the Oilers have done a phenomenal job depth-wise, both defensively and on the offensive side. But I really do think, especially at home, you can get some really favorable matchups with Robertson and Duchesne on separate lines. So that's something I'm going to be really, really curious about, because I really do believe this. Like, if the Oilers only get goal scoring from McDavid, I think they could still find a way to maybe get it done. But if the Stars don't get more people than Rantanen scoring, I think that's a big problem. So I know we already talked about it, but I really do think that it is a really big point. And that's my X factor for sure.
Definitely. I think you're going to need more guys. And I mean, haven't even said Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn.
No.
I mean, these guys are also capable of coming in as well and scoring, which they really haven't either.
Just real quick, I was going to add that Jamie Benn is my other X factor, but not for that reason. This guy takes the dumbest penalties at the biggest moments. He just does. He is a phenomenal captain. Everybody there loves him. He's been playing hard. He's physical. But there are moments, and not just this time, you can go back over history, and he just, when the lights are the brightest, the heat like bothers his neck and he gets annoyed and he just karate chops somebody and takes a 4-minute double minor in the first period or something. Like, so I noticed that in both series, as the series got later, Jamie Benn was taking sillier and sillier penalties. So again, I think that is an X factor, because once again, we talked about special teams, and Jamie Benn's the captain, man. He needs to keep his head screwed on tight, man, because it's been getting a bit hairy for him as the playoffs have gone on.
I like your point there, Mark. The line matchup is going to be fascinating to watch, and I think like that in this case, perhaps more than in either of the Oilers' first two series where they didn't have home advantage, and they had to play more on the road than they did at home. I don't think the line matchups were that much of an issue for them in those series. I think it could be more here against Dallas, and so therefore the home advantage could be a big factor for Dallas, and before it's all said and done.
I agree. That's going to be interesting to see how that all goes. And also, if Knobloch has Draisaitl and McDavid together, he's kind of mixed them up throughout the playoffs here, and he's done that since he's become coach, really. It's going to be interesting to see how that all goes for sure. All right, let's get to our final predictions for this series. Who's going on to the Stanley Cup final? Mark, what do you got? How many games? Who's going on?
Oh man. So I'll just say this first off. The Edmonton Oilers, they make my head explode. Like I'm not the only one who picked the Kings, and I'm not the only one who picked Vegas. This team, I don't like their depth, doesn't matter. I don't like their defense, doesn't matter. I don't like their goaltending, doesn't matter. Bouchard is the most Jekyll and Hyde player in the entire NHL, doesn't matter. This team just wins every year, and they get the job done, and they look incredible doing it. Like back-to-back shutout. Like, it's not like they're squeaking by. Like, they are, like, when they win, they win. Yeah. And so, I mean, I have no idea, really. Like, this series is just ridiculous. I do think it's going to go 7 games, and I do think that Dallas will win in 7 games. I listed out the reasons why with regards to the depth. I do think Heiskanen being back, like I've already said, is obviously huge. One of the best defensemen in the league. That can't be talked about enough. I know we joked about the goaltending. It might not matter, but I do think Jake has been on another level. And also Pete DeBoer. Now, we all know about his 8-0 9-0 now, or is it 8-0? Whatever. It's 8-0 now. Yeah. Game 7 or whatever. I wrote a piece for the Hockey Writers before Game 7 of the Colorado series, and he basically said, he's like, I don't think home ice matters. I don't think it matters until Game 7, and that's what they have is home ice. they actually have home ice for the rest of the playoffs if they make it that far, right? They have it, I believe they have it for this series.
Yeah,
and,
they've got
and
more
the
points
Cup final as
yeah.
well. Yeah, so that was one thing that really jumped out to me, is that this guy, he's like, listen, boys, home ice doesn't matter. Then we get to game 7, and all of a sudden, okay, it matters. And so I'm not trying to just hang, oh, they're gonna win because they have home ice. I just really think to that team, this really does matter, and they've proven it over the last however many years. So game 7, I do think Dallas wins. But listen, man, I picked against the Oilers for the whole playoffs. So tail me if you want to, but beware. I've this Oilers team has made me look bad for like a month and a half straight. So, but I do think Dallas in 7 games, it took 3 tries, but they get past the Western Conference Final and they host game 1 of the Stanley Cup.
All right, Brian, what do you got for the Oilers? Are the Oilers moving on, or you got the Stars?
Man, Mark, if you think like your heads explode, I've had to put my head back together about 8 times over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man. I can only imagine.
Yeah, and then you should try and that's just like paying attention to this team. Then actually being in this city where it's like it's like the highest of the highs are the highest highs and the lowest of the lows, and it can pretty much fluctuate that way 4 times.
I mean, I'm from Toronto, bro, so I can kind of relate. Not quite the conference final level, but I can kind of get there.
No, I think we feel each other's pain quite a bit. We can understand each other's trials and tribulations. So,
to say the least.
Yeah, I don't want to steal your answer, but I'm going Dallas in 7 as well. I picked against the Oilers in the first round, and I went with them in round 2. I think they definitely can win this series. But as I was saying a couple minutes ago, I do think home advantage is going to be a big factor in this one, and I think it goes to 7. And I think in that 7th game, Dallas is going to be able to pull it on home and ice. And so that's there's nothing too scientific or too in depth about that. I just think these teams are they're both so good. They're so evenly matched. I think this thing goes to 7. And in that 7th game, I just like Dallas on home ice. But you know what? I mean, Matthew, I don't need to tell you that the Oilers have won on the road in game 7 before. So, it's a toss-up. But, I'm going to file that as my official prediction, Dallas in 7. All right, so if we both said Dallas in 7 surely means it's not going to happen, I would imagine now, right?
Well, we'll see what Matt has to say.
That's the tiebreaker. Yeah.
I want to go with I'm gonna go with Stars as well. I really think they're going, and it's gonna be 7 games. I like 7-game series, so of course it's gonna be 7. But I could see the Oilers pulling it out too. I just think the tipping point is not going to be home ice. It's going to be goaltending. I think Ottinger is going to make that extra save that Skinner won't, or whoever is in goal, I guess, in game 7. I think just Ottinger has been on another level this playoffs, that I feel like he just has that extra big save in him that will make the difference. And coupled with home ice, I guess. But I think just the goaltending is going to be a big thing. And unless Skinner can just keep going than what he's been doing. But I just think Ottinger's been just so good that I think he'll end up making the difference. So I'm going Stars in 7. So no Canadian team in the final, at least according to us here. But we'll see how it all goes.
We were getting so close to that elusive all-Canadian final, and then within the space of 2 nights, it all just blew up. And
It was so possible, but it's not going to happen this year. We could see.
Was it? I don't know.
We had a big chance. I mean, we had the Jazz.
I believed. I genuinely believed, and maybe that was a bit naive of me, but I believed.
Yeah, we'll get it one of these days, hopefully. But we'll see. But thanks, guys, for coming on, previewing this series. Make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com with all of our recaps, takeaways, all that fun stuff after the games, and then, of course, all the stuff in between. But until our next one, which will be the Stanley Cup final, we will see who is returning on this side of it. But until our next one, we will see you next time.